So I'm Vignesh. I'm one of the co-founders of Rocketlane. So I've been in product all my life, pretty much, like since the start of my career. My previous avatar was with Freshworks. We had a previous startup called Conatar, which got acquired by Freshworks, and we built the Fresh Chat business out of there, right? So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is outcomes of that. What did we do wrong in our previous journey? What did we want to rectify as part of it? And mostly, what I'm going to cover is from pre-launch to wherever we are, right? From 0 customers when we had the inkling of the product to 400 customers right now, from like customers from $1,000 ARR to all the way to $300,000 ARR. How do you do product marketing, right? I think it's one of those things where I think increasingly in a, if you look at any software category, you literally have maybe 100 players even, right? How do you cut through the noise? And to cut through the noise, you need to have a point of view. How do you present why you've built what you've built? So that's what I'm going to talk about, right? Our journey from 0 to wherever we are right now. So quick background. So we are into customer onboarding and PSA, right? So when we started out, it was just customer onboarding. So it was a very blue ocean market. The category didn't exist, right? So most people they didn't know what it was, why they should use you, why does your software even exist, right? Which meant that the onus on on the product marketing piece became even more important, right? So think about other software, right? Nobody needs to explain to you why you need a CRM. The category has been established. You don't need to go out there and explain why you need a CRM. But customer onboarding, blue ocean market, you had to explain the whys, right? So you had to tell them why people have to use your product, right? So you need to have a really sharp messaging on or positioning on why even people have to care, right? So we were against very horizontal project management tools, Asana, Jira, or Excel even, and they were using it in conjunction with other sort of tools, Slack, Google Docs, etc. Right? So this was like the lay of the land, right? And this is like a brief glimpse into what I'm gonna cover over the next 30 minutes. Right? So initially, why should anyone care, right? Because most often we did have competitors, other smaller competitors, probably less than 1 or 2 million in ARR, but that's not competition for us, right? Like when you look at the overall universe of who we're going to sell to, either status quo is your competition, or I'm not going to do anything about this, right? So why should prospects care, right? This is pre-launch. How do you make them care? Why should they care? The second part is, once you've launched, you just have like 2 weapons within you. You have your website and you have your sales pitch, right? Essentially, your people come self-select and come to your website, or they are ready to come on a demo call. How do you pitch your product? How do you position your product then, right? And from there, of course, you're adding features to the product. How do all your additional features contribute back to your core positioning, right? How do you message additional new features? How do you constantly keep reinforcing your positioning, right? Then your teams get bigger. Our company is like 92 people now, with more than 40 people in GTM, and all of them have to speak a common language, right? It can't be accidental. Your sales folks can't make up their own pitch. Your customer success folks need to know what they should go to talk to an existing customer about, things like that, right? How do you manage that? And product marketing today, as we mature, how we're going to talk about it. We wanted to be quite deliberate in how we want to position a product, right? I think in our previous avatar, I think we sort of became confident that we can do tech, we can build product, we know how to pull off technology, we know how to code. But I think the key missing piece was how do we go tell our story out there, right? In Fresh Chat, for example, I think we built the first website when we first launched, and then sort of forgot about it, right? We didn't update it. We just called it like a modern messaging thing and didn't do anything about it. But looking back, I have a bunch of regrets. We were probably the best product out there for support, and that story should have gone out, right? So I think somewhere I wanted to be super deliberate about how we're going to pitch Rocketlane to the world and how we go about it, right? So I would highly recommend this book. People who are going through this thing of going through going through how do you position my product, right? You have probably 5 well-funded competitors ahead of you or on the same stage as you. What makes you different, right? So this is all pre-launch. We put down a bunch of things about what makes you obviously awesome, right? We were going up against an Asana or like a smart sheet, right? Very horizontal project management tools. What makes you awesome, right? So we went through this exercise of, okay, let's list down all the features that you've built. In parallel also, I'm also like I lead product for Rocketlane. So in some sense, I also knew from our prospects what was interesting to them, why would they invest in a customer onboarding software. So I knew what I was building, but you also put it down. I think it helps to articulate why you're building a feature, what are the benefits, and what value does a prospect get out of it, right? For example, a simple feature called, it's not a simple feature, it's quite complex, a feature called inferred progress, which tells you if your projects are ahead of time or are you behind on time, should you, get ahead of the fire. None of the other project management tools had that, right? So how does this feature benefit you? What is the value behind it, right? And once you keep putting all of this down, certain themes will emerge out of it, right? So out of this, we had a huge laundry list of features, and we identified 4 themes which sort of emerged from it, which your other software doesn't provide you, right? One aspect of it was the whole visibility, right? If I'm Freshworks or I'm a ChargeBee was one of our early customers. I'm running 100 different projects. How do I know what is happening to each of them? How do I know if my projects are on time? How do I know if I've provided my first value to my customers? How do I know if I'm spending the appropriate amount of time per project, right? So we came up with like 4 different aspects. One was the whole visibility part. Another part was your customer experience. Think about software buying, right? People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars today to buy software, and they have no idea what's happening. So we built out a beautiful customer portal for customers to track where they are. The third aspect of it was just how do I run the same playbook every time, right? How do I templatize my experience and things like that? So how do I be consistent with my whole onboarding approach, right? And the fourth part was the whole how are you collaborating with your team, etc. And all of this came out of those things, right? And what you can see is this is like our homepage. If we go back way 2021, this is how it was, right? We started off with and we started wordsmithing, right? Like what does it mean to be when you say visibility? What value does the customer get out of it, right? And each of those pages we again fleshed out everything outside in, right? So I'll go into that a little bit, right? I think I think this was like another couple of core tenets we still try to adhere to for anything that we do, which is customer facing. I think the first point was I heard first from Krish from ChargeBee. I think it struck a chord with me very early on. I think treat your website as another product. I think a lot of Indian startups end up doing this mistake where they end up spending a bunch of time on product, right? Engineers working, but they spend disproportionate amount of time on the actual website itself, right? Think about how many times have you updated your website after you did a first launch, right? Every time you update a feature, are you going back, revisiting and putting something back on the website? So this is something which we wanted to fix, right? We wanted to have a website as beautiful or even more than what the product should be, right? And when it comes to copywriting on the website, I think it's so easy to fall into that mode of our own language. When I say our own language, we'll have a feature. For example, let's say Rocketlane has templates. We can keep talking about, oh, we have form templates, we have project templates, we have task templates. With task templates, you can import a task into your project plan. It's so easy to slip into our language. But how do you avoid this inside out thinking, right? How do you not talk our language, our features? But what value does a prospect or a customer get? It's actually consistency, right? Every time you run a template, you're running a playbook, and then once, if you're running the same playbook, then you're able to get insights out of it. You can make sure that your people are adhering to the process, things like that, right? Your every customer is treated the same. So how do you go from inside out thinking to outside in? You become customer in, right? So even today, if you go back to every page, this is what we'll try to adhere to, right? It's not about inside out thinking, right? So I'm just going to talk about one example here. So um, we built a product, great, right? Now we're building additional features. I think one of the mistakes we did was we built so many features, never made it back to the website, right? I mean, it's such a waste, right? You've spent all of this time and energy and putting it out there, but you're not telling the outside world. So I think for us, as part of any product launch, is the whole launch checklist which you have to go through, right? And we almost start the product marketing aspect. Maybe if the feature launch is 2 months from now, today, right? So we have a full checklist of what we have to go through, and we always see to how a feature can sort of reinforce your existing positioning, right? So we did a Slack integration. So because Rocketlane, a vendor, customer, our customers working with their customers, it becomes a one-to-many sort of a thing, right? A Slack integration, our customer can integrate Slack and get updates about the project, right? So this again goes back to reinforcing the positioning of your customer experience, right? They have visibility into how the project is going. If they have to fix something, they can do it. It reinforces the collaboration aspect. So we have a entire checklist on how we go talk about it, right? So I think this was very largely driven by I don't know how, I mean I think all of you know Intercom. I think I was fascinated then, where they used to talk about every feature of theirs everywhere. They talk about it as though it's like the best feature ever, right? If you go to their product hunt page, they'll probably have 30 launches just on product hunt, right? So I think, and part of Fresh Ad, we never did anything of those things, right? And I think it was like something which I wanted to consciously fix. So we are almost like, I mean, I think it goes against my DNA personally, but we decided we're going to talk about everything. Even if it's fairly minor, we'll still go talk about it, right? And I think we found I think validation comes here where actually customers will start noticing you, right? I think this again reinforces that thing of you're the product out there which is innovating in this space, right? So if you look, if you look around the images, this is all one features metrics, right? So we have like 400 subscribers. You see, almost all of them had viewed. If you look at this customer's feedback, I don't know if people at the back can read it, but I mean, this one email alone actually is worth the newsletter which it went out with, right? It says absolutely amazing update, and I can't wait to give it a go. This is going to streamline how we report our internal metrics, right? Previously, as part of Fresh Ad, we wouldn't have done it, right? This is like the in-app update. We have like 6,000 views, right? So I think once we started seeing some of these things, there's no chance we'll not talk about anything, right? I think you need to keep telling your customers that they've made the right choice in picking you, and I'll go further down in the slides. I'll talk about why it helps with stickiness and customer adoption and things like that also, right? But all starts, please do this, right? I think there's some inhibition in going out there and talking about it. If you go see our socials, we go see LinkedIn, we go see a blog, we'll talk about it everywhere, right? We even have employees, we have an amplification day internally. So our employees end up posting on LinkedIn. We also get customers to talk about the feature, and we feature customers also, right? So we find customer advocates to do it. So again, very deliberate practice on just reinforce why they picked us and what value they're getting out of us, right? So as we started growing, we are like I mentioned, we are like 90 plus people now. Most of the team is in GTM, customer facing roles, right? So we have solutioning roles, we have customer onboarding teams, support teams, sales teams, all of them, right? And the initial days, your GTM teams are sort of shadowing you. They can sort of probably repeat verbatim what you are doing in your demo, in an onboarding call, in support, right? As the team grows, you can't make it can't be accidental, right? There has to be a design to it. If you go to Satyam, there's someone who'll say, he'll hand over the popcorn to you and say, enjoy the movie, sir, right? It's not like he's doing it because he feels like. He's been trained to do it, right? How do you deliberately make those um, how do you enable your team to talk the same language as you as your team scales, right? So I think there will be other symptoms of this also, right? So you'll see specifically the sales teams, you'll have different win rates across your different reps. Your best reps will have probably 2x the win rates as your probably the a mediocre one. And this is not by accident, right? It's not like they've suddenly got the best leads or whatever, right? So how do you enable them to have the best conversation with customers, and how do you improve your win rates, right? So a bunch of things comes around it, right? How do you do internal enablement? How do you do customer facing enablement? Um, why should you have a champion in a company? Why should they pick you, right? How do you enable them to make a choice that is favorable to you? And product learning, it's like a continuously releasing features. How do you keep your team updated, right? Like, does your GTM team learn about new features on the day it launches, or is it before? How does it all of it work, right? So I think so our competition comes from different places, right? So you end up doing a bunch of internal enablement content, right? So this is one example where it's like Cantata is like a legacy player. We go up against them in mid-market enterprise deals. Why should we win against them, right? So what kind of pitch are you doing, right? You have to be super deliberate where if you know that a prospect is also talking to a Cantata, right? What kind of landmines can you put there? Like, for example, customer experience matters a lot. So if a salesperson can ask, how much do you value customer accountability and your customer experience, right? And if they say, oh, it matters a lot, quite a lot, then you talk about, hey, you know what, Cantata doesn't have the same thing. Like, and you sort of, all of this is almost pre-scripted. You need to be able to give the right leads to your sales folks to talk about the competition and why we're different, right? So we also do a lot of internal learning sessions, right? So even when we do feature launches, we have a session where the product manager and the product marketing manager is sort of presenting to the team on how do you pitch a value of a feature, right? We have a deck internally. We explain how the feature works, etc., right? We also have, like, for example, we call it curiosity sessions. We bring in industry speakers, leaders to come and talk about the problems that they're facing. It's a very open-ended session where they talk about their journey. Our folks can ask questions. So we, I mean, these might not be prospects necessarily, but we bring in industry leaders to talk about their problems, and the team can ask questions. And we also do like pop quizzes within, right? So especially we've launched a fairly complicated feature about financials, resourcing, time tracking, etc. And it can get quite dry, right? So we end up doing pop quizzes within. We have like almost case studies sort of a thing. So Arushi is like one of our product managers. She pitches a fictional a fictional scenario, and she's asked questions and people are sort of answering questions, right? So we try to make it interactive, try to make sure that we get a sense of who's understood the whole thing best. Again, internal enablement, we have like glossaries and language and how to think about things, etc. Right? So we do a lot of it. I mean, all of this is quite recently, probably last 3 or 4 quarters. but the requirement has come that we have to do it now, otherwise it becomes hard later on. Right? And we have customer facing enablement at various levels of the funnel, right? At the very top, why even pick us? So the link deck is, it talks about our story. Why should anyone work with us? Why should someone pick us, right? And we have customer facing enablement material through the funnel. If they're working with, if they're already working with a competitor, what does it look like? If they look talking to another prospect, what does it look like? All of that, right? So this is another place where you can, I think the softer aspects come into play, where actually instilling confidence in the prospect that, hey, these guys are actually legit, right? I think these things are unsaid, that people are subconsciously making all kinds of judgments based on which room we are sitting in, how are you presenting the product. I think a nicely made professional deck makes a difference, right? We've lost deals on sales engagement also, and we won deals on sales engagement. I think your win rates also come down to not just product, it's about how well you engage in the sale and what confidence you're instilling in the customer, right? Especially if you're selling to mid-market enterprise, those companies are not going to go away, right? You're a startup, you might die tomorrow. Why should they pick you, right? If you're claiming you're building something business critical to them, why should they pick you? You have to instill confidence in them. So how do you do like enablement material so that they think, okay, these folks are actually legit, we can work with them and should work with them, right? So this is one part of it. Another part of it is further down the funnel. For example, I mean, this is a prospect which soon to be customer, where we started doing this. It is not about, actually, let me see if I can, right? So this is, we shared this with the customer and we said, hey, this is what the comparison looks like. And it wasn't about, hey, we are so great. It wasn't one of those things of, here's a checkbox for all of us and nothing for you. We said, hey, this is our view, right? This is why we think we are a good fit for you. But here's an editable deck. Go ahead and make changes if you think we are wrong here, right? Somewhere I think that openness of saying, we're open to, like, we think we are the best partner for you. And we want you to also tell us why we are, if you're lacking in certain places or not, right? I think we started doing this as a practice and it's really helped us in like the sales engagement part, right? So if you talk about like areas of improvement, we're quite honest about where we should improve and why some strengths versus a competitor, they had like a beautiful customer portal. We probably don't have like as snazzy as a portal, but we'll be honest about it and upfront, right? And that was actually quite a critical metric for them in evaluating. But they actually told us in the end that we won the deal based on the sales engagement because they felt confident that we can solve problems for them, right?